welcome to episode 49 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria, your host, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as mmonska. The show notes for this episode will be on the blog, which is stitchedinsweden.blogspot.com, and you can find our Ravelry group by searching for Stitched in Sweden in the Ravelry Groups tab. So this week I have one work in progress, a couple of sewing finished objects. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about sewing, just some sewing tips that I have come across in the last couple of weeks as I have been sewing more. And also I will announce the two winners of the giveaway for the Knitting in France yarn and stitch markers. And I will also talk a little bit this week about, we kind of incorporated throughout, but about the wardrobe architecture progress so far and how that's going. So let's jump right in. So this week I have done just a little bit of knitting this week, but since the last time I talked to you, which has been a little while, I realize. It's just winding down the semester for school, and Thomas and I are getting ready to go to the US in just about a week. I haven't been doing that much knitting, mostly because I've been distracted by sewing. But what I have done is finished a sleeve on my Timeless Henley. Here it is. And I'm about through with the sleeve cap for the second sleeve, and so the sleeve itself goes very quickly. This will be perfect if I can get through the sleeve cap and do, just a bit of, there's a little bird outside. If I get through the sleeve cap today, then I will likely bring this project with me to class on Thursday. We have presentations all day, and I can work on it then, probably. So, it would be nice to finish it before I leave, not to take with me, but just to feel like project is off the needles. I do still have to do the neckband, though, also. But the sleeve is pretty much nothing too exciting. It is worked by picking up the sleeves around the armhole and doing some short rows for this sleeve cap, which I don't know that I've done before, and it worked really well, and the fit is great. I didn't count my rows for the decreases, I kind of just did them whatever, which is never the best idea because you have to do it on the second sleeve, obviously, but I think I can pretty much tell when they are. And then one cool thing about the cuff is that it has a 1x1 rib cuff with a little stockinette stitch panel here. Let's see if you can tell the difference between that and that, which will be sort of a faux button placket, I guess. And I will sew some buttons on to that. Otherwise, this is, still just chugging along. I think that this has taken a bit longer than I would have expected it to take, only because I haven't been working on it. And some other things came up in the meantime, but I think it will be really nice in the end, and I'm looking forward to wearing it in the fall. I have been thinking about what I will wear under it, and with my sewing machine and some leftover black jersey fabric that I have from the bodysuit I made that I showed last time, I think. I'm thinking if I can whip up a little black camisole to wear underneath it. Just, super simple, based on one of the camisoles I already have. If I could just lay that out on the fabric as the pattern and try it out. I'm a little bit unsure of how to do the spaghetti straps. I haven't one on right now, but it would just be like something skinny like this. They're not very stretchy. I tried to look and see if the straps are done like with bias tape or something, because I think that would be sort of the easiest way to do it, but I don't think that they're done on the bias. and I'm wondering if I did do it on the bias, if it would get too stretched out, stuff like that. So, whatever. Kind of a tangent, but that will be part of that outfit finished when that happens. So, I guess I need to finish knitting it first, though. That is all that I have been knitting on this week. I did get together with my knitting friend, Venka, and she came over and we had lovely breakfast and lunch together, and we reorganized my yarn stash here, which was nice, and we like went through all my yarn that I have here, and because I was feeling a little bit yarn overwhelmed, just feeling like I have too much yarn, and since I haven't been knitting a whole lot lately, I feel like it was starting to, I don't know, creep in on me, but she said, you know, you just need to start some good projects and you'll feel good again, so I think she's right too. But it felt nice to organize it, reorganized it by color, and put it away in some safely sealed boxes. That was actually one of my main things too. I wanted to get all the yarn away in boxes for while we are gone. So my yarn is organized, feeling good about that. I also did some knitting on my sleeve while she was here, just a little bit. We usually intend to knit when we're together and then mostly just look at yarn and talk about knitting. So we did do a bit of sewing though, and so, well, she helped me with some fitting on a top that I made, and I think I will head on into sewing now because, yeah, I don't have much knitting to talk about. I guess while we're still in knitting, I can mention this top that I'm wearing is my sort of modified water lily top, and it's only slightly modified because I made the v-neck a little bit deeper, and I put some shaping on the front, which was not in the original pattern. But I really like this top. I find it a little bit tricky to know when to wear it, but I think today is a perfect day because it's been quite rainy the last couple days and it's pretty cold, 10 degrees or so, which is around 45, I think. And yeah, just rainy and windy and kind of yucky outside, but I haven't really had to leave the house because I'm studying for my exam and working on my projects, so knitting and sewing projects, but also a school project, so yeah. Anyway, so she came over and helped me do a bit of fitting on a top that I was working on, and it's finished. So I will share this with you. It might be a little bit hard to get a feeling for it, not on me, because yeah. Anyway, here it is, and this is the violet top, based on the violet top, which is a pattern by Colette, and I made some modifications to it. Doesn't really want to, okay, maybe I should just be still. It buttons all the way down the front. I just did the first two buttons, but they're nice little sort of pearly buttons I really like. This is done in some fabric that I bought online from a Swedish or Danish fabric company called Stoff och Stil, I think. I don't remember exactly, but here it is. I have to figure out how to show sewing patterns, I mean. So a couple of things about this. The original pattern has a Peter Pan collar, which I eliminated and put in just some white bias tape instead, and I really like the look of that. It also had facings in the original one, so that's like the sort of inside fabric around the collar and around the button band that would normally be there. I didn't want to have facings because it's lace and you would see them through. So I did it without facings. There was a blog post, I think, from Colette on how to do it without facings, and I followed that. So the only thing that I still had to do different from that was to adjust to have no Peter Pan collar and just have this bias tape collar, and that worked pretty well. The other thing that I did differently was on the back side, I didn't do the gather, which was supposed to be under the yoke part here, because I want this to be quite a fitted top for, not too fitted, but more fitted because I'm wearing it tucked into a skirt for my sister's graduation. So what my friend helped me with is we added some darts here on the back to help with the fitting, and so she pinned it to me so that I could get the, fitting right for that. Anyway, I think it turned out really well. I am quite pleased with it as my first really finished and polished sewn garment. I did make 2 muslins for it, and here is like my final one, which is kind of a disaster, but it's way less of a disaster than the original one. You should have seen it. It was crazy. So you can see like that I've cut out some parts and replaced them, and yeah, this part needs to be taped again and stuff like that. But just to give you an idea of what it looks like, in sewing this project, I'm feeling like super scattered right now, and I think part of the reason also is because Thomas is here. He's just in the shower. So I feel like someone's sort of watching me, even though he's not watching me, and that sounded creepier than it was, but whatever. Anyway, a couple of things that I adjusted and realized while I was sewing this pattern is that I guess my shoulders are quite broad, and my bust is small, which I knew that my bust was small, but not in, well, yeah. I guess the way that sewing patterns measure your bust size is different than, for example, bras measure your bust size. So, like, your cup size for a sewing pattern is calculated differently than your cup size for a bra. Basically, it matters for sewing patterns what the difference between your upper bust, which would be this measurement here, and your full bust, which you know that measurement. And for most patterns, most commercial patterns, I guess they are written for a B cup, which would be like 2 inches of difference, I think. I'm not positive on this, but I'm pretty sure that means you have 2 inches of difference, that your upper bust is 2 inches smaller than your full bust. And Colette patterns are actually written for a C cup measurement, sewing pattern C cup, not bra C cup. And it turns out for sewing patterns I have an A cup, which means that I only have 1 inch of difference between my upper bust measurement and my full bust measurement. And I guess the upper bust measurement takes into consideration a little bit how broad your shoulders are, because, yeah, whatever. I don't really know how to explain it, except that I'm not an A cup in a bra, but I am an A cup in sewing patterns. So I realized after doing the first muslin that I needed to do a small bust adjustment. And basically what that means is you need to calculate your size that you will actually do the pattern based on, well, there's like a calculation. Basically, you take your upper bust, and like this was for a C cup, so I added 3 inches to that to get like my starting point size, and that takes into consideration basically the size that will fit my back. And then you need to do a bust adjustment on the front, which means that you basically reduce the size of the front fabric. Here's my half muslin for the front with my small bust adjustment. It's really overcast and it's not giving us the best lighting situation here. But basically after I did the small bust adjustment, I got this muslin fitting really nicely. So you might have to do a small bust adjustment yourself if you constantly sew patterns that have a lot of extra fabric in the front, where if it fits your shoulders, it's kind of gaping in the front, or if it's perfect in the front, then it's really tight across the shoulders. So that is true for me in sewing patterns and also in ready-to-wear garments, and I didn't realize that it was because I need a small bust adjustment. So what I did for the pattern is I ended up actually moving the bust dart up from the original pattern because it was way too low for me. And I also decreased a little bit of fabric from that was making the armhole gape. And you can't see it on this piece because it was on my first muslin, but I also decreased out a little bit of fabric from the neckline and redrew the pattern based on that. It worked really well, and I am very happy with the fit of the final shirt. The other things that I sewed, I have sewn 3 skirts. So the first one, well, the first 2 are tulip skirts. This is a pattern by Sew Over It. This one is a denim tulip skirt, and it has a light blue-ish color gray lining. And this one turned out pretty well. I decided after I made it, though, that the fabric was a bit too heavyweight for the purpose that I needed it for, which is to wear to the graduation, which will be in Oregon. And I was looking up the temperature there, and it looks like it's going to be, yeah, 80s, 90s, so like around 30 degrees Celsius. This one has pockets. So after I finished that one and I still had some time, I decided that I would make another one, because I did like the look of the skirt with the top. So the other one that I made is out of a linen fabric, and here it is. So it's a dark gray. You can see that it's a little bit more flowy, but it still has like the nice structure of the pleats. Here is the back. So there's some darts in the back and an invisible zipper. And this one is also lined with kind of light pink fabric. So you can see the lining here, and I have the zipper in there with the lining, and I think it has a really nice finish to it. The only thing, which I will remember for next time, something happened with my waistband, so you can see that the zipper pokes up a bit. And I think it's because I didn't sew the same seam allowance for some reason near the end of the zipper. And I could fix it if I just pulled it down a bit, but then I would have to undo some of my hand stitching for the lining and the waistband, and I don't really feel like I have the time to devote to that right now. But anyway, I'm happy with how the zipper turned out. It's pretty invisible. So that's just kind of a minor detail that won't really matter because my shirt isn't so fitted and it floofs over a little bit over the waistband. So, and I will wear this with a little skinny belt around the waist too. That's kind of like a metallic rose gold woven color belt. So yeah, I really recommend this pattern. The tulip skirt from Sew Over It has really great instructions, definitely beginner friendly, I would say. It's a bit time consuming just because you have the waistband and the zipper, which the zipper itself does not take much time at all, especially if you have an invisible zipper foot. And I'm going to talk a little bit about different sewing machine feats in a little bit. Feats. But, so, feats. No. Feet. The final thing that I sewed since last time is a skirt, another skirt. So yes, 1 blouse and 3 skirts. This is a kind of T-length skirt that I did not use a pattern for. I just used sort of the idea of from a tutorial on Pinterest that I found. And basically all it is a rectangular piece of fabric sewn in half with the edges finished and a piece of elastic put in for the waistband. And I made this out of, again, a fabric that I bought from the same place as the lace top, and it's 100% viscose fabric, and it's, yeah, right around lower calf length, I would say, which is T-length, I guess. And I think it will be a really nice, lightweight, airy summer skirt to wear that will be just slightly nicer than super casual, but also really casual. And I'll wear it with a either like a white tank top or short sleeve shirt tucked in and with a belt, probably. So here it is, and the other thing about this is that it has sort of a secret pattern hack in it, which is not really probably a proper thing to do with dressmaking, but I did it anyway because I'm not a proper dressmaker and I don't care, and it served the purpose. So it has a sort of like mini skirt inside, which acts as a lining for just for the top part of the skirt, basically. Goes to about here, and that provides 2 layers of fabric for, yeah, my bottom so that it's not see-through, and then the rest of it is lighter weight, and it is see-through slightly, but it's not that see-through. It would have been okay without that top part, so I put it in there anyway just as a little extra layer so I don't have to think about if I'm wearing striped underwear or something, but also just so, like, yeah, I don't have to worry about wearing a slip or something, and I didn't really want to line it with lining fabric because since this is such a nice light and lightweight but also just like airy skirt, I didn't want to have any like artificial lining in there that would make it sweaty or something. I did finish this with a French seam down the back, which apparently is also called an English seam. It's just where the raw edges are hidden. And I also have this very nice edge around the bottom, which I will talk about also with presser feet. But I'm just really happy with how it turned out, and I could have done this in like probably an hour if I was really concentrated on it, and I definitely could make a second one in like an hour now that I have the measurement that I like, and mostly it was because I had to go to the store in between to get the elastic that it took a little bit longer. But yeah, so that is my last sewing thing that I'm working on. I have plans to make a sort of sewing machine rug, quilted sewing machine mat thing to have underneath my sewing machine so that when it's on my desk I can sort of push it away and pull it towards me more easily, because right now it has little rubber feet on it which don't slide along the desk so easily, and I have to get up and lift it up because it's sort of too heavy to lift up while sitting down, if that makes sense. I did take 2 very useful Crafty classes that I thought I would mention right now. The first one is called 40 Sewing Techniques or Tips That Every Sewer Should Know, and I can definitely recommend this for new beginning sewers who are especially doing garment sewing. She gives a lot of tips for just getting a professional finish on garments and some really small details that you can do to just take it up a notch. I really like that because I really try to be very detail-oriented when it comes to knitting. So, for example, like on the Henley sweater, even though it didn't ask for it, I did a tubular bind-off on the arm, the one that I finished, and on the body, because I think it gives it a cleaner finish. And so little things like that that aren't necessarily called for in a pattern, but when you have more experience you can say, I think this could be nice with a tubular bind-off, or like that skirt. I think it could be nice with a French seam, even though okay, I didn't do this one from a pattern, but knowing that I could do a French seam in it and get the edge nice was just a good, tip to have. And then, like, for my white top, like, what is understitching and things like that. So I took that Crafty class, and I thought it was really useful. I'm not through the whole thing yet, but I'm kind of just watching it a little bit at a time, and I've already gotten a lot of useful tips, so I think that's a good one. I also am taking a free motion quilting class, and I haven't finished that either, but so far she's had some really great tips, and I will be doing some free motion quilting on this mat rug thing that I'm going to do for my sewing machine. And I would like to do another quilt again sometime in the near future. I have done a couple of small quilts before, but I sort of just always guessed how you did the quilting part, which is fine, but I think she provides some like really just sort of basic things, but also just some really helpful tips that you wouldn't know directly and you might not think of, which can really help your quilting process. So I'll include both of those classes, and if you are interested, one way that you can support me and the podcast is clicking through the links on my blog for Crafty if you're thinking about purchasing a class. I am a Crafty affiliate, but I will only tell you the classes that I actually have watched and enjoyed. So I can say that both of these were definitely worth it and valuable for learning some new skills. So, speaking of new skills, so this is basically just totally a sewing episode, which it won't always be, but in the summer I just really get the urge to sew all the things, and that's what I'm doing lately. So that's what I'm showing you on the podcast. One thing I thought I would talk a little bit about this week is presser feet. And I know that most sewing machines come with a couple of different presser feet, some basic sort of standard ones, and you can oftentimes get away with using the same presser foot for a lot of different jobs. This is kind of the standard one that came with my machine, plus some other ones for, there's a zipper foot, buttonhole foot, the automatic buttonhole foot, which is super crazy, like this huge thing, and an overlock foot, and just a couple of other different things. I needed an invisible zipper foot, and I thought that I would, instead of just ordering one foot, would order this entire pack of feet. I bought this on eBay from the UK. You can get it on Amazon. It's basically available online. And I bought this because I was interested in learning about how I could use different feet for different jobs to basically produce a better finished garment and be more satisfied with my sewing. So I've used several different ones so far, and I thought I would just share what I've learned so far. So and some of these tips I got from my friend Venka, who is over here, who is basically a professional seamstress, and she, we kind of like went through these and looked at what they were for and stuff like that. Anyway, so this is kind of the basic one that comes with a lot of sewing machines. It's like a walking foot, and she told me that actually if you just want to sew straight stitches, you should use a foot more like this, which is called a straight stitch sewing foot. So instead of having a long hole here, it has just a small hole, and it has some guides on the edge here for the measurements, and it just works really well. It helps keep your fabric a little more stable, and yeah, especially when I was sewing with the lace fabric, I was finding that sometimes it would get caught in here slightly, and if I had sewn it with this one, I think it would have gone a lot more smoothly. I've started using this one, and I did my long floral skirt with this, and it worked really well. So I could recommend that for just using that one on your sewing machine as sort of your standard foot rather than the walking foot, which is a little bit strange to me why this one comes with most machines and not this one. Actually, okay, I won't say most machines. I will say with both Genomes that I own, only this one came with it, not the straight stitch. Another foot which I have been using and love, because I didn't know that this existed before and I was always like, why can't I get this super nice edge, is this foot. And this is a foot that has a little guide in it, which can help you get super close to the edge of, like when you want to do a hem or like a rolled edge, not a rolled edge, but if you want to do a folded over edge like this, and you want to have a super nice edge where your stitches are really close like that, just to the folded over part, the little guide runs along the fabric, and then your needle is always the same distance away from the edge of the fabric from the fold, so you get this super nice edge. I just thought that was amazing. So I've used this one. Another foot that I used is the invisible zipper foot. Now, in sewing, inserting an invisible zipper is so easy, and if you have never done it and are intimidated by it, you should check out the Sew Over It YouTube channel. She has a tutorial for how to insert an invisible zip, and you just need a foot like this and it will make your life a million times easier. Has these two little ridges here where the zipper goes through, or it holds one edge of the zipper and then the needle stitches right next to the zipper. Super easy, very useful. Could recommend that as well. There's lots of other feet in here. There is a blind hem foot, and one came also with my machine to do the blind hem. And I'll just show you what that is in case you don't know. You can do this kind of hem by hand if you want, where you basically don't see the stitching up from the hem. I'll show you it on, I did it also on the lining just for practice. You wouldn't have to do it on the lining, but it's easier to see on the lining, so I'll show it to you there. You can see these little dots of thread that come through, that if you can picture an outer fabric like this, you wouldn't really see those little dots. And then on the inside, you basically fold the hem over, and you're mostly stitching on the folded over part of the hem, and so you're just catching the tiniest bit of the outer fabric so that you only see this tiny little stitch. And if you pressed it well, you wouldn't get a line or anything. I need to press this one again. But yeah, it works really well, and it's super fast. And yeah, you can do a hand stitch hem too, which would maybe be even more invisible, but it would also take way longer. So I thought I would give it a try with the blind hem foot, and it worked really well. So that was nice too. There's some rolled hem feet which I have not had luck with yet. And there's a couple that will be useful for quilting, I think, like this one, which is similar with the guide on the edge. And this is a 1/4 inch guide, which is a more common seam allowance for quilting. There's a binding foot, a bias binding foot, which if I had known that that's what this was, I might have tried that around the neck of the lace garment, the lace top that I made, but actually I probably wouldn't. I did that binding by hand, so that one by hand, and I think it turned out really nice. So I'm happy with that. There's also a free motion foot in here, which I will be using for when I do the quilting. There's a different kind of zipper foot, which is for a standard zipper. There's all sorts of different feet in here, And if you do buy this foot kit, just be aware that the usage and names of each of the foot does not come with it. It's all in Chinese or something on the back. But I did find a Pinterest post linked to a website which basically explains what each of them are, and there's lots of just information about different feet online once you sort of get a basic idea of what one of them could be called, so you can search further and find videos of how to use it and things like that. So I would recommend, if you are doing some sewing, to just have a little look into what feet you could use to make the job easier for you and get a nicer finish. Okay, so that was a lot of sewing talk. I think that I will move on now and announce the winners of the giveaway. So a couple weeks ago when I podcasted, we had a giveaway for these two lovely skeins of yarn from Made in France, and this is the Stormy Clouds color, and this is Shades of Grey. So I asked you to post in the Ravelry group and say which your favorite colors of from her shop were, and any suggestions that you could have for her shop. So the winners are Spindrift, and you have won the Shades of Grey color. So contact me on Ravelry with your address. And the other winner is Celia Cardell. And contact me with your address and I can get these sent out to you. I think that is about it for this week. I just wanted to say thank you to two lovely viewers who sent me some very kind packages this past week, and I will, I think I will share that yarn with you once I knit with it. But they were very sweet packages and I really enjoyed them, so thank you. And I think that's it. So it might be a little while until I podcast next. It's going to be a bit busy with our trip to the US, and I'm not sure if I will be recording in the US, so we will be gone for about 6 weeks, and I will either see you then or before then. If you are planning on going to the Fancy Tiger anniversary day, which I think is June 18th or something, let me know and I'll be there. I'm not sure. I don't have a plan exactly what time I'm going to be there yet, and I don't really know if I want to do like a whole meetup thing, but yeah, I will likely be there at some point. So until next time, happy knitting, happy sewing, and happy summer!